I think many of you are familiar with the quote from the Fatherland. That was Hitler's Fatherland. Back from the 30s, there was a pastor, a German pastor, who ultimately was taken into custody by the Gestapo and sent to 2 separate concentration camps. I'm going to keep this short because you know the quote. But think about today and how we will rewrite that. I also have a couple handouts, incipient signs of fascism, that kind of thing. I can leave. The signs of fascism always include surveillance of ordinary citizens, infiltration of groups, etc., and that's kind of useful to think about. Are we there yet? But the quote is, in Germany, first they came for the communists. I did not speak up because I was not a communist. Then they came for the Jews. I did not speak up because... Then they came for the trade unionists. I point out in this country, the unions really haven't recovered from the 50s. Same kind of thing that's happening now. The House Un-American Activities Committee, then we had COINTELPRO, same. Then they came for the trade unionists. I did not speak up because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Catholics, and I was a Protestant, Then they came for me. By that time, no one was left to speak up. Very famous quote. This is about the Fatherland. What about the Homeland? What about the U.S. Homeland in 2013? This is a rough draft, and you can all think about how you would write this. And this is top of the head this morning. First, they blamed, they demonized, they bombed, they surveyed, they entrapped Muslims. But I was not a Muslim, so they came for, they stopped and frisked, they jailed, they did mass incarceration of blacks and Latinos. But I didn't speak up because they deported immigrants on an unprecedented scale. They deported conscientious objectors to other countries. But I did not speak up because I wasn't one of them. They detained, they injured, and they arrested all activists, whistleblowers, peace workers, environmentalists, nuclear resistors, anarchists, including the violent suppression of the Occupy movement. But seeing the state's response to dissent and the surveillance of all citizens, and I think all of us have friends who said, I'd like to join you, but I really can't afford to be arrested, so that really kept the numbers down. But seeing all of this violence, seeing all of this repression, I didn't speak up, this quote might go, for fear of further repercussions from them because of what they do. Some of us know of the Minnesota 23, Carlos Montes, the NATO 5, now 3, etc. The FBI, and the woman who Googled pressure cooker because she wanted to cook lentils, and the FBI came to her house, etc. So, in 2013, first they came for, and what are we going to do about it? And we've all seen that the few people who've been willing to, either as whistleblowers or as independent journalists, and there are damn few of those, to speak up and question what the state is doing, whether it's to question war crimes or to shed a light on surveillance, which really ought to be our right to know. Those people have been punished very severely. I don't need to get into, I think, with this group, Bradley Manning or Edward Snowden, who had to go to another country, and his life is really still in danger. For what? Because he had more courage, actually, than the people in Congress who could have told us what was going on. So the government is taking the few people who have spoken out and through them sending an incredible message. If you speak up, we're going to do to you what we did to Bradley, which was illegal under the Constitution and the Uniform Code. We're going to do what we did to Carlos Montes, to the Minnesota 23, to the Muslims in New York City. We're going to raid you, we're going to stop you. So I would end that. We've got the quote from Germany. Anyone here might want to work on their own version of the Homeland quote from 2013 and a few years back. And I'd end with this question. The German quote is from 80 years ago, but 10 years from now, 50 years from now, 80 years from now, whenever, when we look back at this homeland, this militarized homeland with money also being spent not just for spying, but for, hurting people who actually try to exercise their First Amendment rights, with money being spent to violate the Fourth Amendment, who will be willing to say, who will be able to say, whether or not they came for me I did speak up. I spoke up for everyone. And that's the question I would leave you with. I'm sorry we're not. And I do have handouts I will leave on fascism for anyone interested in that very obscure subject.